Hey everyone, this is Sharon, Conscious Sharon. Just had a moment here. I was thinking about first impressions. Let me see if I can write this down. I do hope that everyone is having a good day, and I'm pretty sure that you are. Maybe I'm just not looking at this thing right. Oh, there it is. First impressions. Okay. And pretty much what I was thinking about is, how in society so much has been put on us about, oh, remember about that first impression, and that we do everything that we can, no matter what type of situation that we're in, whether we're in a job or even when we're meeting someone for the first time, like on a date. But we put so much work of trying to have that quote unquote first impression. And the thought that really came to my mind is that, like if someone tells us something, and let's say that it doesn't align or it come to be, I don't really like to say that it's not true, but let's just say it changes. We will hold that person to that, where it could have been like in that day and time that whatever they told us or whatever they said or however they presented themselves or however I present myself, this is how I am at this particular moment. And I think one of the things that's kind of making me think this, in which I've thought about it before, to be honest, but especially like with the COVID-19 and all these statistics. And I am not a statistic person. I hated statistics when I took it in college. But the thing is, what I'm seeing is that, and I'm just going to use that as an example for a little bit, is that people are holding on like to the numbers that, let's say the doctors are saying, the projections. We can use the weather. Let's use the weather. I mean, how many times that the weatherman or weather person, excuse me, would say that they predict something to be a certain way and it's not that way? Do we really be pissed off mad at the weatherman? And so I guess what I'm not understanding is that how does that happen in life, in which we really hold people, like if someone, I'm trying to think of a personal example that I've had, and I know I've run into this. Somebody would say, well, Sharon, I thought you said such, and I'm like, yeah, I did. And especially when, let's say, if someone tells me some information and I pass that on to someone else. A good example, probably a good example is when let's say we get a good deal, we buy something, it's like, oh yeah, I go to Walmart and they got it for $14.99. But then when the person go there, then it end up being for $20.99. And that person will really get off mad as if you lied to them. And so in thinking about, again, first impression, we do everything. There's so much pressure on that. But my thought is that I think we have it backwards. I think that the lesson isn't about making the first impression. We really should be true to who we are. And we only have the information that we have at the time. Information, it's not even information. Perspective changes in any given moment. It's like I can be thinking about something in a certain way right now today, and if I get additional information, I may change my perspective. It doesn't mean that I'm easily influenced or anything like that. Like, it made sense. I may go back to what I thought about originally. So again, maybe first impression is more about, are we able to accept when we have different information. Because the other thing that I see too is, let's say, for instance, someone may have been a certain type of way. That person has changed, but that imprint, and I know a lot of things end up happening, but that imprint of who that person was sticks with us. But that person has really changed, and we're the one who's stuck. So with first impression, is it really on the person? Let's say I'm giving you this information and you're like, oh, Sharon, I thought you said first impression is this, that, and the other, but it's different from your perspective. But you will hold me to it, but can you adjust? So again, we put so much pressure on first impression, where maybe on the receiving end, maybe we are the ones who can benefit from how we receive the information. Because what if it's not to what our expectation is, or what if it's different? So what if I did tell you that I got this item from Walmart or wherever for $14.99, and by the time you got there it was $15? It could have been in the same day. And that happens. But people will hold people, oh, well, I don't know if I can trust them because they said such. But it doesn't buy into the fact that it just changed. It has nothing to do with the person. And then sometimes if information get passed on, sometimes, the person who originally told the information may not be true. And then even like with the COVID-19, I'm seeing so many different things. The way that I even look at it is that a piece of information is known today. We go about the piece of information today. We try to predict something. And then tomorrow we have new information. So it changes our perspective of how we looked at it yesterday. I mean, no one really has any control over to really predict, and we hold people to that. And that happens a lot in the workforce. I've seen it. I work in mental health, and one thing we do tell people, we cannot predict people's behavior. We can say, with the presentation at this particular time, it doesn't appear though that someone is suicidal or homicidal, but they can walk out tomorrow or today and something can happen and we may not have seen it. And so again, when it comes to first impression, I would say relax, be yourself. But on the receiving end, if something is different, if you're thinking that person is not giving you correct information, or I don't even want to say conflicting information, but just different, do you trust yourself? Because information and perspective change. And so first impression may not be about who's delivering. Maybe it's more about how we receive the information. So again, for those who know me, I'm a self-care advocate, and part of self-care is that self-awareness. So when it comes to self-awareness, it's a part of us looking at ourselves. How am I receiving information and not just giving it? So don't be so hard on other people. And then what about yourself? What about if you would have told someone something and then it comes out to be different? Then how do they perceive you, So maybe again, first impression isn't about us trying to make sure everything's right, because that's a lot of work. We put too much pressure on people, and then not only that, sometimes some people just give up, just don't even try. Because again, like I'm telling people, by me even going live and by me even doing videos, this is outside of my comfort zone. I am a true introvert, but I do like to talk. And I do like to share information and have conversations and things like that. So I don't like those, put it like this, I'm working on those things. So I don't think it's about, we do want to do our best, but it's not about being perfect, because nothing is perfect. It's about being able to accept what it is at that moment. And if something changes, to be able to adapt to the changes. And if we change our perspective, good. And if not, that's okay too. Another thing that comes to mind, probably another really good example is, it doesn't matter, but I'm just gonna use boys. If a boy, got into a lot of trouble when they were younger, and, might have didn't make, now I'm not going to say make any good decisions, because I always feel like even with good decisions, sometimes things just may not turn out the way that we would like for them. But let's say, that person changed their life around, and it's like sometimes we can only remember how the person was and not who the person is. So that's on us. Sometimes I would say when things get stressful or there's crisis, yeah, we all can step back and relapse to some old behaviors, but we will really hold that person, if they, especially if they've done something to you or something. So I think it's more of about us working on ourselves. And that's one key reason that I'm like, self-awareness is key. And so again, when it comes to first impression, be easy on yourself. And when you're on the receiving end, just think that maybe something changed. So maybe it's about how we're receiving the information. So that's my take on first impression. You guys have a lovely day and be safe and well in every way. And I think that the more that we do the internal work of self-awareness and looking at ourselves and being honest with ourselves and not being so hard on ourselves, that everything will be okay in the end. Take care.